Hey everybody, Nick here. Today we're going to go through a quick video on how you can take in a file from Excel that has multiple tabs and read in all the tabs and combine or append or aggregate the data tables within those tabs to get one final output or table that you can work with within Knime. So to get started, I'll show you guys the data table the data tables and the tabs we're working with. So let's say, for example, you're working when you're not too deep into reporting, you've got files that look like this, where every month or every week or so, or whenever the report comes out, a new tab is typically added with the tab corresponding to a particular time period for what's within that tab or that sheet. So you see this a lot, especially when you're working, I think, in retail, and you're not necessarily the retailer, but you're a vendor to the retailer. The retailer usually sends reports out where they're tabs or sheets like this for time periods. Not too fun to work with when you have to try to aggregate everything and get one big data table. So what we're going to do is show you how to get rid of that issue and just create one big data table within Knime. So ultimately we want the same table for each month of 2021 from January to June. We're going to want the 4 rows by the 5 columns combined. So we're going to be talking 4 over 6, 24 rows on our ending data table, right? So to get started, the first step, where it's a bit different from reading in just one Excel file, is that you don't start with the Excel reader node. Where you're actually going to start is with this read Excel sheets name node. So if you just type read Excel, it's this node right here. So I have the entire workflow already set up, so I'll just walk you through how the logic of this thing works. So what this thing does is it basically points to the file wherever it's sitting in your table, in your documents, and then it just reads in the file, and it'll read the tabs or the sheet names for the file. So here you can see the column sheet corresponds to each of the tabs or the sheets that are in my Excel file, where each tab is our particular month of 2021, where 1 is January, 6 is June, right? So it all matches so far. So then the next step in the process is you almost need to take these sheet names, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to tell, to skip ahead, is we're going to tell the Excel reader node, don't read the first sheet with data, don't read a particular sheet of data or a particular tab. What we're going to do is we're going to tell Excel to read each sheet by, we're going to tell Knime, I'm sorry, to read each sheet by making Knime recognize that each sheet name is a variable at this point. So to get Knime to recognize that each sheet name is a variable, you're going to have to drag this table row to variable loop start. So what this does is it's like the starting point of a loop, where each loop in this flow is going to restart at each row within the source that you feed it, where our source right now is going to be the node that reads all the sheet names from our Excel file, right? So to put that a bit clearer, this is going to loop through whatever we tell it to loop through, whatever steps we tell it to do. It's going to loop through for each variable, do the same steps we tell it, and we're going to tell it that the variables are the tab names or the sheet names from within our Excel file, right? So you don't really do much to set this up. You just connect it. I usually just connect, hit OK, and then it creates the variables out of these sheet names, right? So then we'll connect Nexus Excel Reader, right? The one we usually use to read in Excel files. I have an earlier video on that, but I'm sure you might be already well aware of how that works. But if not, what we do is we point to the file that has all our sheets or our tabs we want to combine. You can leave this as first sheet with data, or any of these sheets, really. It's up to you. It doesn't matter, because what I'll show you next is it's gonna almost make this null and void. It won't read this anymore. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go over to this flow variable tab over here where it says flow variables, right? And I already have it set up, but what you're gonna look for is the sheet name variable. So what this is saying is, when for the sheet name input, right, that's over here, for that sheet name, I'm telling it to use the sheet variable as what to set the value for this, right? So what this is going to do is, since our variable has multiple sheet names, this loop is going to take each sheet name and run through and set the sheet name itself, right? Because we've got it selected to use the flow variable. And you'll see that Knime has recognized that when you get this little error message, or not error message, this warning message down here. You can see it says the sheet name parameter is controlled by a variable. That's how you know that now we're on the right steps, because then this is going to be controlled by the variable we feed it, right? So anyways, after you set the flow variable under your sheet name, what you do next is you set up your usual Excel reader setup, right? So I'm telling it that the column names are in row 1. I want it to read the entire sheet and then ignore or skip the empty columns, hidden columns, empty rows. So then my output looks exactly like what I have in my Excel sheet, but this is only for the particular instance of the first variable, which would be the 1-2021 sheet, right? So we're all set up, good to go. I can hit apply to that, right? So then after we've got that set up, the last part you want to set up is this loop end. So what this thing really does is it's taking whatever you tell the loop to do, it's taking the final output of those loops for each variable, and it's almost concatenating or appending the results within this last node, right? So what's going to happen here is if we start from the top, we're telling Knime these are the sheet names from our Excel sheet, right? These are the sheet names. Now take these sheet names and create a variable out of the sheet names, and then start a loop where you loop over each one of those variables. So we're going to loop over reading the Excel file in and dropping the results into this loop end. So for each variable, we're going to read the Excel file in and then drop the results over here. And where the variables, we already said multiple times, are the different sheet names, and that variable is controlling this sheet name function over here within the Excel reader, right? So now we know that each tab or each sheet is 4 rows long, because there's the same exact thing from when we looked at our Excel file, right? You can see the January matches the February, where the only difference is the month and the values within. All right, the March report specific to March, but we only have 4 categories, so on and so forth. You've only got 4 categories or 4 rows for each sheet. So we've got 4 rows over 6 sheets or 6 tabs. So we should expect, again, this output to have 24 rows, right? So now if we let's reset it all, right? With the F8 is the hotkey to like reset the entire thing. So that's what I did there. I reset it with F8, and now I'm just gonna run to the end and hit execute. So it just loops over everything. It was that quick. And now we should see 24 rows in our final output. And you can see here, we do have 24 rows. We've got the 4 categories, right, for each month. And you can see the year, the month, as well as the data within. And then you also get this iteration column, which we can remove later with a column filter. But you can see now we've got all our data for each month, aka each tab or each sheet within our Excel file is now all within one data table in Knime. So now we can go through and run one calculation across the entire data table, or do whatever manipulation across the entire data table, but we have our obviously our detail that helps us cut by month later on if we want to do that as well. So that's really it. That's all I've got for the reading in multiple tabs from an Excel file. It's a bit more complex. I actually didn't learn this one on my own. I've got to give credit to the guys from Knime. It took me a bit of reading. On the forums to actually find an answer. But Scott from the Knime team, he had a similar flow set up, but it was for reading in multiple tables from Knime. And he said you basically take this concept and then you apply it to the Excel reader and tab frame of thought, right? But anyways, not to ramble anymore. Let me know if you guys have any questions. If you need any help setting up, I can help you guys out with that. If not, just drop a comment. And then don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget to share this video with all your other analyst friends. I'll catch you guys on the next video.